Good afternoon. It's Monday, September 16. I'm Herman Green with your midday news. A special welcome if you're watching online at onespotmedia.com. Following a 2-year delay, the government is hoping that by the end of this month, it will be able to close the controversial deal with O'Brien's International Car Sales and Rentals for the purchase of used vehicles for the Jamaica Constabulary Force. An additional 30 cars are due to be supplied by O'Brien's. National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang says those vehicles are being cleared from the wharf. He provided an update during an interview with our news center.
All the pickups have been delivered and they are now in the process of clearing the motor cars. So we expect by the end of this month we should have put it behind us. Some motor cars, I think there are about 30 motor cars left. So not a huge amount of the lot, but it will still an outstanding amount and we have to get them. No, they're on the wharf. So it's clearing them and getting them to the police. That's been done.
The contracts were issued to O'Brien's in 2016. The matter was placed before mediation after the company failed to supply the vehicles. However, despite being given several deadlines to deliver the vehicles as agreed during the mediation, the JCF is yet to receive the complete order. The government had threatened to sue O'Brien's. Following the imposition of a state of public emergency in St. Catherine earlier this month, questions are now being raised about the locations of the checkpoints and the boundaries of the SOE. TVJ's O'Shane Masters reports.
Pressure is mounting on the St. Catherine South Police over the various checkpoints which have been instituted following the announcement by Prime Minister Andrew Holness of a state of emergency. At the latest meeting of the Portsmouth Municipal Corporation, head of the St. Catherine Police Division Superintendent Rex Swearing noted that there were over 93 murders in the division since the start of the year. But despite the update, councillors were curious as to why a checkpoint wasn't established in Gregor Park, which has seen an uptick in murders.
Although Gregor Park, police will admit, is a place of concern, we decided that we will place the checkpoint in Waterford, but we'll have other operations in the Gregor Park here. We'll have some foot patrols and other police presence within the
Also a source of concern was the boundary of the SOE.
I don't see where the JCF should go in and lock down the entire 850 houses community of Southborough. Likewise, Newland.
Councillor for the Southborough Division, Ainsley Parkins, argues that a targeted approach is needed to deal with criminal elements.
In Newlands or Southborough, you have 10 known persons who are actually involved in criminality, and they are the target. And we have to stay efficient. We have to be selective in what we are doing. And if the intelligence arm of the force was selected in actually targeting their criminals, now I don't think the state of emergency would go for what more.
I want to council express the fact that persons are being locked down in their houses. We are not doing any such thing. The only places that are being closed at certain times are businesses and some establishments. So we're not closing homes and members of the
Councillor Parkins says the impetus is on the intelligence arm of the JCF to do their investigations and to deal with criminals accordingly. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
There's a jab at the Andrew Holness administration from the opposition, as there's a claim that enough consultation was not done with persons who live in the designated mining area of the Cockpit country. While on a recent tour of the area, opposition Senator Sophia Fraser-Binns said the voices of persons who live outside of the protected area must be heard. The government is now on a collision course as influential environmentalists and other stakeholders are opposed to any mining taking place in the Cockpit country. An environmental impact assessment study had declared that specific areas of the Cockpit country could be mined. However, the opposition is now claiming that some views were not taken into account when the study was done.
The persons who live in the Cockpit country, who are not in the Cockpit country protected areas, they are the ones who have been saying we need to be considered, we have concern. And so as a responsible opposition, what we are doing is we are listening to them, we have been meeting with them, We have been hearing their concerns, and out of that, we will be in a position to say this is in fact the position of the opposition.
The opposition further claims that all stakeholders will be consulted before it arrives at a position. Despite that, however, it says no mining should take place in the Cockpit country. Mrs. Fraser Binns says the opposition will not prejudice the issue.
Because we're not going to come to a position without knowing the facts and without hearing from the community and all the persons who participate in the mining industry, the concerns, the recommendations, which would inform how we act.
And we now take a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. We have more news after these messages. Welcome back, continuing the news. The lack of water in Westmoreland has forced the closure of 2 high schools in the parish. The residents and their Member of Parliament, Dr. Wickham McNeil, just last month issued a call to the National Water Commission, NWC, to urgently deal with the issue. However, to date, there's been no change. TVJ's O'Shane Masters reports. Residents and elected officials in Western Westmoreland are taking the National Water Commission, NWC, to task over the lack of water in the parish. They told TVJ News that for the past 6 months, they have been without the commodity in their homes. Just last month, one resident told our news center that she continues to receive a monthly bill for thousands of dollars without having access to pipe water from the NWC. Member of Parliament for Western Westmoreland, Dr. Wickham McNeil, says he has had meetings with various members of the Water Commission, including its president, Mark Barnett, but he's yet to see any deliverables on the meetings which were held. Dr. McNeil told TVJ News that he was informed that the issue was due to turbidity at the Bulstrode water supply. But for Council of the Little London Division, Ian Miles, the water situation is one which could have been alleviated, as he says Westmoreland has had its fair share of rainfall for the past 9 months.
I find it rather strange that we can't, harness this water so it can be used for domestic purposes and otherwise. It simply means that as a country we are not going forward.
He says if the country is to move towards Vision 2030, then issues with technology will have to be front and center.
So we seriously have to look on technology to produce the water which is necessary for domestic purposes.
He believes it's also a deterrent on the economic side for the people of Western Jamaica.
I have poultry farmers which have been calling me. They're spending $15,000 weekly just to truck water to their farms. That cannot continue, cannot be sustained.
As for schools,
all the primary schools have been affected. I would have gone ahead and making some calls to the National Water Commission to truck water into some of these schools, but here at Little London High, the water came late, and as such, school would have been disrupted. Granger High was the same thing. But how many trucks are there to truck water into the various schools?
He says the NWC will need to do some improvement on the Bulstrode water system if there is to be any significant turnaround for the people of Western Westmoreland. In the meantime, he's questioning why other areas in the parish are not looked at to provide the water which is desperately needed in the parish.
We have Benta, we have Venture River, we have the Macefield Falls. These are areas within the Williamsfield area in the parish that produces so much volume of pristine water. Why can't we use a first world technology and think first world now and implement first world strategies to harness this water so that it can be of benefit rather than running and wasting daily? We have it to the benefit of the residents within the parish.
Tension is brewing over the stance taken by Mayor of Montego Bay, Homer Davis, to deny a gay rights group permission to use the Cultural Center in St. James for an event. The event is dubbed as a public forum with the topic, "Is Jamaica ready for same-sex marriage?" The details from TVJ's Kirk Wright.
Gay rights lobby group the Montego Bay Pride was hoping they would get permission to use the Cultural Center in Montego Bay, St. James to host an event on October 16. However, things might not go as planned, as Mayor of Montego Bay, Homer Davis, is not backing down from his decision to deny the gay rights group permission. The St. James Municipal Corporation discussed the matter last week before making a final decision not to allow the group to use the facility. Since then, Homer Davis has been criticized for his stance, but he is insisting the cultural center is not the right place for the event.
The center, it is somewhere that, in not only my opinion, but it is a government property. It is a property that is very sacred to the people of St. James and Jamaica in general. And we don't practice, same-sex marriage in Jamaica. It is not a part of our constitution.
He believes the organizers should take the event elsewhere.
For what the center is generally used for, it is used for primarily cultural and as another expose. And the councillors in council thinks that, they can have it elsewhere. We don't have a problem with them having it elsewhere. But we think that the cultural center is not the right place for that.
A flyer on Montego Bay's Pride Facebook page advertised the event as a public forum with the topic, "Is Jamaica ready for same-sex marriage?" In the meantime, attorney at law Peter Champagne says he's confused about the mayor's reference to the Constitution in explaining his decision not to grant the group access to the center.
I'm still trying to fathom the arguments because there seems to be a contradiction in terms. You're talking about upholding the Constitution and the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedom, Section 13, I believe, specifically speaks to freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, all of those things. So I don't know. The arguments, with the greatest of respect, seem to be self-defeating in terms of their position on it.
He was speaking on RJR's news review program, That's a Wrap, on Sunday. Mr. Champagne explains that government bodies should seek advice from the Attorney General before making decision on certain issues. Also speaking on That's a Wrap, social activist Latoya West Blackwood described the decision as mind-boggling. She says it appears to be based on personal belief.
There's a concern I have, this matter and others, where it seems that some people who are in particular decision-making roles or represent the government or other entities seem to have a challenge with separating church and state, or their own belief system values with the role they have to play on behalf of the public.
It's understood that the Montego Bay Pride is now considering legal action against the municipal corporation. Kirk Wright, TVJ News.
And we go down to sports. JFF President Michael Ricketts will start his second stint with one less issue to worry about, as the Reggae Girls' intended strike ahead of the Olympic qualifiers could be aborted.
Sealed and approved. With no challengers, Michael Ricketts was officially returned as the JFF president at Sunday's annual general meeting. And speaking to TVJ Sports immediately afterwards, Ricketts said the JFF has settled all outstanding salaries with the national women's team.
The girls have been paid. All the monies were wired to their accounts starting, I think, Thursday. A number of them indicated on Friday that the monies were in their accounts.
However, the salaries for the Reggae Girls team coaches are still outstanding, with just days away from the September 25 ultimatum given to the JFF.
And what I want is a amicable settlement of the issues that are presently on the table with these coaches. And we have had a decent relationship. But the truth is that the JFF runs football. And we want to ensure that we have a respectful relationship. But people must be reminded that it's the JFF that runs football.
Meanwhile, Ricketts has also dispelled news that the Reggae Boys are also planning their own strike ahead of next month's Nations League match, as they are yet to receive any payment from the recent CONCACAF Gold Cup.
We met with them in Montego Bay, and there's absolutely no semblance of that. I can categorically tell you that that is not true. We have met with the leaders of the group, and they too have been made aware that they are to be paid from the CONCACAF funds that we have not yet gotten. But we will be paying them very shortly.
Sunday's JFF approval will see Ricketts serving for the next 4 years as president, while Bruce Gaynor and Raymond Anderson have been returned as vice presidents and will be joined by Peter Reid, who replaced Gary Sinclair, who did not seek re-election.
And that wraps up the Midday News. I'm Herman Green. Join us at 7 for the Primetime News Package. On behalf of the News Sports and Production teams, good afternoon.